Bubbling tubs of sea lettuce. On an industrial site only metres from the Tauranga harbour, a team of researchers is starting to understand how this otherwise pesky maritime plant can find a thriving aquaculture industry. The government last September released an aquaculture strategy which hopes to move the $800 million a year industry further towards $3 billion by 2035. And sea lettuce has many properties to attribute to capturing this value. Joining us now in Ceres Country is the Macroalgal Biotech Program Lead from Waikato University, Dr Marie Magnusson. How are you this evening, Marie? Thank you for taking the time to join us.
I'm very well, thanks, Sarah. Thanks for having me.
Now, how did you become involved in the project and your background in this particular field?
I've been working with seaweed and with microalgae as well for a long time. So for nearly 15 or so years now. So I started off working in Australia in the tropics and got recruited to join the University of Waikato about 2 years ago now, and moved back to the cooler climes. I'm originally from Sweden, so it's been wonderful to move back to a country with cool seasons.
Let's talk about it. There's a lot of different things going on. It's not just one solution that's coming out of this research. Was it predominantly human health that interested you to start with, or were you quite passionate around the connections to stock feed?
For me, it was probably most the environmental benefits and the potential of using seaweed and macroalgae for bioremediation, and at the same time being able to develop a lot of really interesting products. But yes, Joel, you should be eating seaweed to look after yourself. It's a really good plan.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about it. I was talking to a bright young man who's very interested in it from a carbon sequestration perspective. Is this part of it just as much as well the health elements?
There are a lot of benefits, and you can gain carbon sequestration benefits from growing seaweed as well. It's more you definitely sequester carbon at a local scale where you are producing the seaweed, and then depending on what sort of product you're making from the biomass, you can also long-term sequester the carbon. So if you are just eating it or feeding it to animals, the carbon re-enters the cycle on a really sort of short-term basis. But there are products, if you make biochar or things out of for example, cellulose, that you can incorporate into longer-lasting but still biodegradable materials. There's still long-term benefits in carbon sequestration.
Okay, on the health side of it, human health, of course, Japan has been very passionate about consuming seaweed in a lot of their diets for many, many years. What can we do here in New Zealand to differentiate?
Well, I think it's a matter of both the clean green image of New Zealand. We got beautiful green seaweed as well. The material, the biomass that we are cultivating at the university, it's really spectacular looking and really nice for food presentation. We've got beautiful little clusters that look like little stars. They also taste really nice, and they are really good for your general health and gut well-being. And there's strong indications both from our own previous research and also from research globally how healthy seaweed is for you.
And healthy for the environment. Could you tell us about your work in Australia and this bioremediation and land waste going into our waterways, and how we can plant seaweed, not just in the sea, but of course in our waterways as well?
Yeah, for sure. Excuse me. So in my previous work, we had an industry partner who we were working very closely with, and we throughout the work, we started off working together with a prawn farm where we were using the nutrients, so mainly the nitrogen and the phosphorus from the prawn effluent after the feeding of the prawns. There's lots of nitrogen and phosphorus left in the water, and so we would channel this water through seaweed ponds And over several years, we were quantifying the amounts of nitrogen in the intake water from the Great Barrier Reef and also in the effluent water after the water's gone through prawn farms and then also the algal ponds. And we demonstrated that we had lower concentrations of nitrogen in the water after algal treatment than in the actual intake water in the Great Barrier Reef. So basically, you can use these sort of technologies to clean up waterways and really make a big difference. And even if you're cultivating, having ocean-based aquaculture, as soon as you're removing and harvesting that biomass from the ocean, you are in effect removing that nitrogen and phosphorus from that system.
Excuse my ignorance, but in terms of anything where there is a lot of interest can go into an explosion of a monoculture in a marine environment I'm not too sure of and aware of. But I understand there's a lot of consented area in our oceans, and particularly around the Hauraki Gulf, and we'll be speaking to Dr. Jason Smith from the Kaipara towards the end of the show. How will we manage this growth and do it in a way that's good for the ecosystem of our marine life as well?
I think in terms of seaweed, a lot is around the management of when you harvest to make sure that there aren't. So if you harvest before the seaweed goes reproductive, for example, you're limiting the risk of having seaweed starting to grow where it wasn't growing before. There's already quite a lot of settlement of seaweed on man-made structures like mussel farming infrastructure and pylons and those sort of things. But it's a natural thing. Seaweed will settle where there are appropriate surfaces for them. What we're doing is we're only looking to cultivate seaweed that are already present in an area as well. And even if we're growing things on land, we're really focused on determining what's around in the local area and starting cultures from seaweed from that local area, so we're not moving biomass between different areas for biosecurity reasons.
Marie, as you said, as you saw as we opened the show there, we're talking a lot about men's health, particularly because it's June, but how human health in general and how we need to sort of tell that story. What's one fun fact about seaweed and human health and how good it can be for a part of our body?
Oh, I don't know if there's so much fun facts. They're just really, really good facts. One thing that is maybe interesting is there's lots of things that you can do with seaweed that make it more palatable for the uninitiated palate, I should say. So there's because there's a much less of a tradition in New Zealand and in Western countries of eating seaweed. We've been cooking it up at home and roasting it with sesame and
brilliant. We love a good cat in front of the camera.
And those sort of things. So there's lots of those sort of things that you can try with seaweed that are maybe not sort of traditional ways of eating it.
And lastly, it's been reported before that it could be a fantastic tool in the toolbox with regards to methane reduction for livestock and supplements. I know our audience will be very interested in that. Where are we at with that research?
So there's, in terms of the red seaweed that has received most of the attention around methane mitigation, there still remains some work to be done in terms of the long-term efficacy and safety. I think I am personally confident that there is clear benefits in going that way and making sure we can gather all the relevant data. And we are growing this species in our lab as well. So.
Oh, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. As Dr. Marie Magnusson from Waikato University and all the great work that they're doing there at Waikato University in general in regards to science. Isn't it fantastic to see the depth and breadth of science and everything that we eat and grow here in New Zealand?
This is Sarah's Country.